Welcome to Hacking Business Technology. You know, I almost said ITSM Weekly. I can't believe it.
Oh, it's been a while.
Oh, man. It's been at least a week since we've last talked. You know, we're really good at the weekly thing. I'm really proud of us for keeping that up. It's specifically myself, Mr. Matt Barron, and Mr. Mark Kawasaki.
Yes, we are doing a great job. I hope the weekly makes a difference for people.
Yeah, maybe. I guess, looking at the number of viewers, because it actually shows us how many people are viewing live, I would say not so much at this point. But, I think we are the loudest and maybe the most entertaining news source in the ITSM industry. But that might be.
There's a couple more. I mean, I know Daniel Billing has one going on right now, and
Oh, he does? I haven't even seen it.
with oh, I forget who he's with, but and I also heard that Charles Araujo's starting one, but that's going to be more like
At the SMF.
a TV show.
Awesome. I love Charlie. I think, he could probably pull something off that's really interesting. But I'm really curious. Oh, Top of the World. Oh, is he doing it on Vimeo? No.
No, he's doing
Is it Shift?
no. Daniel Billing is doing it with Earl Begley
Cool.
and maybe someone else.
We got to post a link to that. I
Yeah,
can't
we
believe
should.
I haven't seen it. How come I haven't heard of this yet?
I'm not sure.
Bad
I wonder
marketing?
if
I don't have a good attention span.
maybe they haven't heard of us.
Ooh. We should get them on. Let's get them on as guests. That's
We
my
should. Or we should like take over their show one day and they can take over our show one day.
Oh, that's kind of a cool idea. It'd be really cool to get Chris to guest on something like that. He could try to pull off an Earl Begley impression. I love Earl's voice. I could listen. Anyone with a good drawl, I just love listening to that kind of. We've got a couple of consultants that I love to get paired up with because they pull out the y'all. They do y'all so well.
Yes. I hear it all the time down south here, so I don't even notice it.
That's true. Yeah. Okay. So there's big news. I don't know. You actually, I think, was it you that actually pointed? No. Hooper pointed it out. He emailed all of us about the thread.
Yeah.
Had you heard about it before he sent it up?
Yeah. So what we're talking about, everybody, is BMC sues ServiceNow for patent infringement. And I mean, if you're paying attention on some of the boards or some of the groups, there's been posts or talk about it. The news wires have, little blips about it. It's not anything that unusual, I suppose.
And the tech industry says, where's the coffee?
Yeah, it's so let's talk about this. So we actually have the patent complaint, infringement complaint up on our screens right now. So I'm sure we can read you some juicy tidbits. One of the things I love, Baron, is that I mean, my favorite thing about the complaint. I mean, it's a very legal document, right? I mean, it's all legalese, but they have three photos inserted into the complaint, and this is something submitted to the court. So one of them is a video snap of Fred Luddy with the goofiest look on his face.
But to be fair, that is the actual look on his face during the quote. And I put a link if you're watching this live or if you're watching this on our website. There's a link below, and it goes straight to the quote that they use. And he looks ridiculous. It's clearly. It's clearly banter, right? I mean, you can hear the Cube guys in the background going, he's a thief. He's a thief. Stealing IP is funny.
Okay. All right, so let's read this quote. All right, so quote, Mr. Fred Luddy here. Good artists copy and great artists steal. And I've been a thief all my life. I'm going to admit it right here, right on camera, live, end quote. I'm pretty sure he stole that quote, actually.
I'm looking it up right now because that's exactly where my head went. It's got to be someone. Okay, quoteinvestigator.com has this down, and the claim is that it's Picasso.
Yes, I remember that. I mean, and obviously, okay. So I think everyone has the same thoughts when they hear this. So we'll just voice some of them, right? I mean, what were your initial thoughts when you heard about lawsuit and this quote?
Well, I have a long history with both of these companies. I've actually interviewed to work at both of them and have not worked at either one of them, which is fantastic.
Congratulations.
In hindsight, that was a really good choice. Uh, but it took me a little while to get there, and I missed out on IPOs and non-IPOs and going public, and I missed out on a lot of stuff. But I remember specifically when I was at BMC touring their facility. They actually take you into this hall. One of the pictures in the legal document is this hall of patents, and they've got these, like, I don't know, it's probably the compacted souls of service desk agents long gone into these metal plates. They're compacted into these urns, and they've got them listed on the wall, and it's all their patents, and and then they list them in the document, and I need to pull up one of them because they're things that, how do I want to say this? If these things are patentable things, then I think we're sort of discrediting the overall goal of patents themselves. That's just my opinion, and
sure, but that's not anything unusual to the patent trolling.
That's true. Okay, so here, for example, number 25. At number 6,895,586, the 586 patent.
Yes, oh yes.
Here forward mentioned, entitled Enterprise Management System and Methods, which includes a common enterprise-wide namespace and prototype-based hierarchical inheritance. And I think, doesn't Windows have that?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot of things that have that in it, and my assumption is that we can actually go look at these patents and see what the details of them are.
That's probably the biggest question in my mind. Are these patents generalizations, or are they very specific to how it's implemented in the coding with which it's implemented? I mean, it's a very, I guess that's what the court has to decide, or does it not matter? I don't know. It's bizarre. I mean, I didn't follow the whole Samsung Apple lawsuits enough either. I mean, square versus oval or rounded edges or all that crap, I mean, that's got to be really ridiculous. And so this is ridiculous to a degree, but something in me still feels like, yeah, I would kind of want this uncovered. I mean, did you have any thoughts like, I wonder if there's any truth underneath any of this? Because I did.
I think that Apple-Samsung case is a really good, what do I want to say, like similar example, similar case, a good reference, because that is sort of what we're getting down to. I mean, should software be patentable in and of itself, or
Right.
Because if you think about it, like for instance, Facebook. I think you can actually download Facebook, literally. Like you can start up your own and put it on a bunch of servers or whatever. I mean, there are certainly other platforms that you could do that too as well, but it's not necessarily about the technology. It's about adoption and having that user base. And I think suing over user experience or user design or design elements, although it may be warranted in a capitalist society, I'm not sure that it matters in the long run. But maybe this is just posturing too. Maybe they just want some bank.
Well, sure. All right. So I mean, one of their main arguments here is that they spent, I think they actually used the word billions.
Yes.
In R&D to develop these things. Billions of dollars.
Would you like to sponsor a podcast, BMC?
For two-phase root cause analysis, we spent $1.8 billion.
Oh man, and then they go on to say hey, we had all these great employees, but we mistreated them or whatever, and so they left and went to some other company that paid them more. And why can't we just keep all our people?
Right. So these people left. They went to ServiceNow, and they took the product with them to an extent. I mean, they recreated it, whether it was with, copied code, I have no idea. But you don't really need copied code if you know how it works underneath, right? And you can recreate it. But, I mean, okay, so...
And to be honest, copied code really sucks. You should improve it the second time around.
Right, exactly. So, I mean, Google Plus came out and did pretty much the same thing as Facebook. Couldn't Facebook have sued Google? I don't know.
I guess if they could win patents, and I think that's maybe that's what it comes down to, right? Like this is the old school version of idea camping or something. No one can steal Lyft and Uber right now. If you tried to come up with a ride-sharing service that competes against some of the, here's a great concept for an app: a Lyft that only works in low-populated areas.
Yes, we want that. Okay, but what's interesting is that ServiceNow, they point out somewhere that ServiceNow has no patents.
Yes, they said that they don't invest heavily in innovation. They are not innovators or something like that.
Which, so I guess no patents means you're not doing any innovation. Is there a significance to the fact that ServiceNow has no patents? I wish someone from ServiceNow could tell us that's purposeful, or we don't need patents to be innovative, or...
Well, I'll bring up Old Man Barron. 7 years ago when I was doing ServiceNow development, they used to actually use the term open source software to in reference to ServiceNow, because I'm not exactly sure why they said that, because I think there's elements of it that we still it's not open source. It's not on Git.
It's right. It's not open source.
I can't download the repo.
But you can copy certain elements of code and make them your own, and
you can run it on your own machine if you work for ServiceNow and have a copy of the code. And I think maybe that's I don't know, that's another episode where we define what open source actually means. But I think I think that's kind of where they're coming from, right? Like that these ideas are not our own. They're ITIL licensed or Axelos licensed. I don't know. I actually
certainly many of them existed, alongside or even before that. I mean, incident management is as old as incidents, right?
It's just a name. It's a name for.
So let's talk about a little more of the details here, though. So they're calling out very specific, well, not very specific, somewhat specific things. Incident and problem management, including visualization tools. They keep talking about visualization tools. Mm-hmm. Whatever that means, like a problem management GUI. Yeah. I don't know, but so then they mention
doing Evernote then, because that's what that's for. I can tell.
Yeah. As long as it's not visualized, you're okay. So performance analytics, which is interesting because ServiceNow bought that, didn't build it, right?
Let's see here. Yes, but the company name was Matrix something, so calling it performance analytics might be an infringement.
Okay, but they also mentioned ServiceWatch at some point, which they just bought. It's almost like they stuck that in at the last second or something. It's very strange. So discovery, orchestration, automation, all these things, which are interesting because those are often bread and butter for BMC outside of their ITSM tools. So this is really BMC saying, across all of our products, ServiceNow is infringing.
Yep, and we want some dough because of it, probably.
Dough. Yeah, so what they want is basically stop infringing and monetary recuperation of the cost.
Yeah, so I don't know, it'd be interesting. I guess someone else commented that HP is jumping on too now.
What?
Who said this?
Is it going to become a class action? Can I sue? So who are the people responsible for this? Is this Fred? If it's true.
Well, I mean,
product managers as well who lead the development of a certain.
I don't know. I really don't know. And the thing is like even speculating doesn't really make sense. Like, for instance, if my company steals something and we get sued, are we going to try to find the specific employee that did it? Maybe, so we could can them. But beyond that, I don't really see like the value in doing that.
No, general counsel will take care of it for everybody, I'm sure, but
It's got to be posturing. I don't know. And the thing is like if this is like I don't know that much about the patent system, but if this is how the patent system works, I'm going to start filing a lot of patents. And they're going to say really ambiguous things like data stored, GUI,
yeah.
systems for enterprises.
Oh,
Like,
lots of visualization.
hey, yeah, also, yeah, visualization, reporting. Check this out. From their patent, I'm going to file this patent as soon as this podcast is over. 3-step root cause analysis.
Oh, you one-upped them.
I wish that I could like drop my microphone, but it's attached.
What's to keep me from doing 4-phase root cause analysis?
So like I don't know. If this is how the patent system works, yes, I guess I am really missing out on some patent camping.
Okay, well, let's talk about the wonderful quotes from Slootman.
I actually heard most of that stuff. I thought it was pretty bold when he was saying it. It kind of shocked me, actually.
Well, I wonder which the worst one is. All right, so we have been dismantling BMC's business left, right, and center. We have taken the whole company down. And then lastly, I fear for their future because we're going to drive a truck right through it.
It's creepy when people talk like that. It doesn't make sense. Number one, the turn of phrase left, right, and center. What does that? Is that a boxing thing? Left, right, center?
Maybe. I don't know.
Some lawyer get on here because apparently these legal documents are just too confusing. Oh man, the thing is that you really, if you are in the ITSM world right now and you're trying to do a press release of some kind or release some other kind of news, you are going to get drowned out because everyone has been seeing this coming for the last 10 years. I mean, I assumed it would happen one day, didn't you?
Yeah, and we'll be right in the same place, but someone else, ServiceNow will be suing someone else in 10 years.
Same game, different players.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad. It's too bad that we go in cycles like that, but I hope that we learn from them and maybe get rid of the patent system. There, I laid it out. I just put it out there. But seriously, though, in the ITSM world, there is other news going on, believe it or not.
Oh.
The ITSM Review put out, what do they call it? The Sphere, the Shiner, the Universe. ITSM Tools Universe.
The tool universe. Okay, yeah.
I was way off on the Shiner.
Okay.
But it's interesting, I like Martin. He's a good dude. I've worked with him on a couple things. I'm not sure that they ever got anywhere because, we're not actually paid to do most of that industry improvement stuff like this, for instance. When's the last time you got paid to be on a podcast, Martin?
Yeah, never.
I'll send you a couple bucks. I'm sorry. But
all right. So what's up with the universe?
This got hotter over here. It's interesting the take that they take on it. They actually interview customers of tool vendors, and then they interview the tool vendors themselves and compare the answers.
That's
that's interesting if you think about it.
It is interesting because I was actually thinking the other day. I mean, on our last podcast, we've talked about practitioner analysts and getting more cross the industry feedback. It'd be nice if it wasn't just interviewing. I mean, there should be a Reddit of ITSM tools, or something where or maybe a survey that actually takes off and isn't so tightly controlled by one particular organization.
And totally biased and worded terribly and takes hours to fill out. I totally agree. We need /tool on a Reddit for ITSM.
Yeah.
Nate Barron, get on it. Do it.
Go Nate.
Yeah, I'm sure that he could probably fill out some of it too. We should get Nate on sometime. I think it would create like a loop, right? And then the world would implode.
Yes.
But what's interesting, then they publish the results in such a way that you can see on a spider graph, and I'll share the link on Twitter or something. Just Google it, whatever. The first question that they ask, and I'll quote the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, whereby 1 is entirely customizable and 10 is entirely dependent on consulting, please provide an estimate on the level of customization you are able to achieve with your ITSM tool. So ServiceNow thinks that the customer can do everything themselves, so they gave themselves a 1. And then the customers respond. They said about a 6.5. I think it was 6.6. And so, like, you just see percentages. This isn't really actually a measure of tools. This is a measure of tool vendors' delusions.
Yeah, right.
Which is way more interesting.
That is very interesting.
And it comes down to, like, okay, so who are you interviewing? Is it the product managers? Is it the CMO, the CTO? Whose baby is this? And are you talking to the mama? Because mama ain't never think her baby ugly. And that's the first time I said ain't never on a podcast.
Yeah, so, I mean, seamless upgrades. Do they have one for that?
And the thing is no matter what you do, when you do an evaluation like this, you're going to be biased. You are going to be biased, and it's either going to be, you cannot get an objective result on something like this. Even when you go to a client and they, say they put out an RFP that said, we want to make sure we get the right tool. Number one, you're going to respond and say you're stupid because it's not about the tool, it's about the people in the process. But number two, if they spent $1 million, they would still have biases built into their tool selection process. It just happens. We're people.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And people have fear and uncertainty and doubt and pride and avarice and greed and all sorts of crazy things.
That makes it sound so interesting.
But if you go to enterpriseopinions.com, that's where they've actually listed the results. I won't list off the people that are on there. If you like we've said on the podcast before, if you are looking for information on tools and how vendors treat their customers, go to the local user groups.
Absolutely.
It's definitely the best way to get the most information as fast as possible. So. What else do you have, Mark? What else is going on?
We had an ITSMF summit here in Atlanta. It was kind of nice.
Yeah?
I think it was a good turnout. I was surprised. I think it's interesting to still see, ITSMF and local groups like that and how they're going to sustain themselves over time. But I think they're trying to reach out to some students to see if they can get some young people involved, like business schools and the like. But I don't know. I still believe that the young people care about innovation and not, support. So they're going to start there either way.
God, let's hope so. But, the thing is that you can have some problems then. If you don't, you sort of need to balance the right way. Because, for instance, in schools, they try to innovate technology. Often you see these multi-million-dollar projects to get iPads in front of kids, and usually it's a part of a grant, and that grant doesn't go on past a year or two, and they always have operational costs beyond that. So it is good to innovate, and clearly we don't have a podcast called Hacking Business Technology for no reason.
Sure. But, I mean, it's like when I was on a panel, and one of the questions that came up was, how does ITSM stay relevant and when everything's moving to the cloud? The typical kind of question about that. And my esteemed panelists talked a lot about controls and management, and I caution against ITSM becoming much like the security industry, where we shouldn't be contributing to 60 security or control-related questions on an RFP. We should be focusing on innovation. What can this cloud provider do that's going to enable our business? Not, how do we make sure this doesn't get out of our control? I mean, obviously that needs to be there as well, but this is an opportunity for ITSM to help drive companies forward, not just keep them in check.
Yeah, that's something that I think our company's been working on for a long time. What it comes down to it's the same thing as any implementation or any application implementation. All comes down to your foundation data. Where's the information? Where are the bits? Where are the numbers?
Yeah.
And when people talk like that, I usually start with just cost transparency. What are your numbers? What are you spending on this? What are you spending on that? Do you actually have that categorized? If you don't, we've got to start managing that data, because that usually is going to drive one of two things. Number one, you're going to find money to spend elsewhere and innovate, or you're going to eliminate waste where you thought you were innovating and actually just wasting a ton of cash.
Yeah.
And then usually from there, the thing is that the difficult part is, and this is the difficult part for everyone, is that an organization in and of itself cannot trust another organization wholeheartedly. And there are people involved, so people can't trust each other wholeheartedly. And there's never true symbiosis in the enterprise relationship world.
Yeah.
So if we had, I have to pick a company that's not a client of ours, but if we had Sears as a relationship, for example, and let's say we've been working them for 20 years, as long as we've been working with some of our clients, they might give more power to our words because of the 30 odd projects we've done that haven't failed, or that sort of thing. But it's never like a literal form of trust, and so you will consult those people so they get their data in order, their financial data in order, and you'll see where they're spending stuff, and maybe you're doing some cost savings and really just reporting. You get to the next level and you're trying to innovate. You're trying to guide them in a direction that will either provide more value for the same money, decrease costs, increase innovation, provide more services, make services cheaper, better. But they don't, they just can't trust you, and so they will hem and haw, or not take the right step or misstep, and then at that point it comes about less about leadership and more about making sure that they will cross around and return back to metrics. So looking at, was this successful? Did we actually end up saving that money? And that really is something that is, like, I call it organizational wisdom, because that, I think, a wise person does that exact same thing, just reflect.
Yeah. Right. So they have experience with you. It seems like we should be relying more on certification as well. I mean, it'd be nice to know just flat out, this is a cloud provider that's a tier 1 based on this ISO standard or whatever, I mean, without having to do much due diligence. It should be that easy.
Well,
I don't know.
That's good. The thing is that when we run into this very often, sometimes the answer is not a SKU.
Yes.
You can't always buy the answer either. It's not always about that, and so like. Then it becomes these leap of faiths, because you're spending, millions of dollars on change initiatives where there isn't a SKU involved, or you're tagging on a change initiative to something where you had a SKU previously and they didn't consider, training people, or something like that, or like organizational adoption, And you saw that a lot, in the last 5 years when people would sign up for things like eHammer, or similar collaboration sites of the sort, and you'd see 50-60% adoption, which is great, but if something's going to be your single source of record, you need 100% adoption.
Yeah.
And that's difficult. It is so difficult. It's so rare that you would have hired the right. The only company that I would have faith in doing it, Zappos.
Yeah.
Because it's all about culture.
I love Zappos.
It's like walking into a dream. You're like, oh, you focused on people first and what the company culture was going to be first.
It's so dramatically different too. It wasn't just, oh, this is a little bit better. It was like a whole different world.
And you can change. I see it at Maryville all the time. When I joined Maryville 4 or 5 years ago, it was old and stodgy and really, really stale. It was tough. But gradually, stuff just changes.
Right.
If you say it often enough, so it will be. If you build it, they will come. All those sayings are totally true, but no one's got the patience to test it.
Yes. No one does. Companies don't either. But.
Yeah, that's true. Or they just don't want to spend the money, or time, or have actual leadership, which is really tough these days. And overpaid. So,
What else is going on?
hey, why don't you sign us out this week?
Okay, everyone, that is hacking business technology. That's
Have
how
a good
we
week, everyone.
see ya.
Now you've earned your paycheck.